make a move in the ring. You can hit me with a word you fling.
How's it going, everybody? It's Nick Atkin, South China Morning Post, scmp.com/MMA. This is post-fight. My guest today, or I should say tonight, actually, because it's 9 p.m. in Hong Kong. He's over in East Virginia, I think he told me it is. It's Donn Davis, the founder and chairman of the PFL. Don, how's it going, man?
Hey, good evening, good morning, depending on where you're listening. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Very happy to have you on the show. Yeah, I just wanted to get an update on the PFL, everything that's going on. Yeah, how nice is it? How difficult has it been for you to adjust working from home in these circumstances with everything that's gone on with the PFL because the season was cancelled?
Yeah, look, we postponed the 2020 season until May of 2021, as you know. So the first order of business is we wanted to get everything locked down, right for 2021. So there was two big opportunities for that, and we were able to work remotely for that. One is how do we get the very best fighter roster for 21, and we released a third of our fighter roster and was able to upgrade it. Right, there's a lot of great fighters, and we now have fighters from 22 countries around the world. So the remoteness of that was actually an advantage. We were able to connect with fighters around the world. There was an excess of fighters wanting to get to work for 2021. So that was order of business number one. And then order of business number two was, how do we start our international expansion? And I think part of what you've talked to my business partner, CEO Pete Murray, about also is how do we start to give regions like China their own PFL? You've been able to experience some exported fights. If the UFC brings one fight to China, or if the UFC takes one fight to Russia every year. And so we're looking at how do we create the first ever true global MMA league. Think of it as a PFL China, a PFL Russia, a PFL Latin America, and really allow those fans to engage in fights prime time, attend those fights locally, and have the best regional MMA companies in their own territories, which have enough fans and enough fighters to support that. So those are the two things we've been working on pretty actively. And the virus and pandemic have allowed us really to do that seamlessly. It's global work, and actually not traveling has allowed us to maybe do more work faster. Now, obviously, not fighting this year is a bummer. We're entrepreneurs. We're aggressive. We want to build the company. We want to build up our momentum last year. So we hate not fighting this year. But from a business perspective, in turning the eye toward 2021, MMA fans are going to see a better PFL product, a more exciting PFL product, and a more widely distributed PFL product come May of 2021 because of it.
Yeah, you touched on it there, expanding internationally. I did speak to Peter Murray about that. He said we will be in China. Is there a time frame on that? Have you got a rough idea when you could set something up such as a PFL China or a PFL Russia, and what would be the priority? Which region would you like to go into most?
Boy, it's a great question. I mean,
Sorry.
It's a great question. If you take a step back just in terms of MMA, and you know this because you're an expert, MMA is, but MMA is a pro sport for the next decade. A lot of people in other territories who are either fans of soccer or in America, football and globally basketball. But if you look at the next decade, it is MMA because the 4 or 5 things that are driving those trends are pretty clear. MMA is the youngest audience demo. MMA is the fastest growing sport. MMA has these short action, high contests with everybody with short attention spans or mobile viewing. It's perfect for. And also MMA is the most global sport. So if you look at kind of those big trends in terms of young demo, global, growing, high action, MMA is a sport for the next decade, whether that's UFC or whether that's PFL. So I think what you'll see us try to do is one new country or one new territory every year. And when you look at China specifically, it will be the biggest individual, I think, MMA territory 10 years from now. If you look out 10 years, I was one of the executives building America Online during the consumer internet, the mid 90s, right? You had an email address, I had an email address, but most of the world didn't. So, if you think of MMA like that, you're a fan, people listening to your show are fans. And even though there's 450 MMA fans, this sport's only 25 years old. The next youngest sport's basketball, which is 75 years old. So MMA is like the internet in 1995. You know it, but it's not mass to the world knowing it, right? And so this MMA sport is just growing. And in places like China, places like Asia, places like India, it's in literally inning 1 of a 9-inning baseball game. Very, very starting. So I think you'll see us do one partnership right, whether it's PFL China, PFL India, PFL Russia, PFL Latin America, PFL Europe. Those are 5 big regions. They're all equally kind of ready. Something like Europe is more mature. Something like Latin America, more mature. So those are kind of more natural sooner. And a place like China or India will be bigger than Latin America or Europe. But it might take a few more years to develop. Ultimately, in terms of launching.
What would the format be if we're talking about PFL China? Would it be a places up for grabs in the main PFL roster in the US, or would it just be this is for the $1 million translated into yuan prize in China, and then we'll do that again next year here? Would it be a development league, anything like that? You could tell me.
Well, I think what's made the PFL, think of the league that we've launched right now as PFL Global. It's where the biggest prize money is offered, $1 million in each weight class. It's where the biggest and best fighters go. If it's either UFC or PFL in order to prove themselves. It also has the broadest distribution, ESPN primetime in 160 countries worldwide. So think of what we built as PFL Global so far. What we'd like to do is take that same format, this meritocracy and transparency, right? The regular season, playoffs, and championship, where a fighter has to win 4 times in that year to become the champion. That seems to be the differentiated, kind of proven product that's made PFL the fastest growing league. Use that same format. Use that same format in China. Use that same format in Europe. Because it's different. The UFC is a great product, right? And in the one-off events where you match up people who are really exciting because they're either great fighters or a lot of hype in social media, that's a great product. What the PFL does is different. And remember, there'll be 4 or 5 or 6 big MMA companies over the next 5 or 10 years. So we're not competing with UFC. We're not trying to take share from UFC. We're trying to be the second biggest, co-leader over time. And so we want to stick with that format of regular season playoffs and championship that is differentiated and interesting. So we'll keep that format in a place like PFL China. And we'll make the league be the very, very, very best in region. So if you're the best, this is where you want to be. And we will have the majority of fighters in region. Right? You want to see your very best fighters come up. Now, it won't be exclusively. Now, this is hypothetical. Maybe it's 50%, maybe it's 60%, right? But what you really want to do is see your very own. But you also want to see your very own tested against some of the best in the world. And so I think when you see us do something like PFL China, it will be the same format that's a PFL regular season playoffs and championship. You'll see it all take place, within that 6-month period of a season, and you'll see it have a majority of fighters call it in region, so that it's the very best place that people want to be. And only they might go to PFL Global if maybe they're so good. Like Alex Ovechkin in hockey eventually left Russia to go to the NHL and play for the Washington Capitals, right? But the KHL in Russia is a damn good hockey league, right? And almost if you grow up, you aspire to play in the KHL. So we'd like to do that for the MMA of China or Europe.
Have you started reaching out to fighters in China, and when would that process begin? Because in my opinion, it's a bit of an arms race at the moment in the region. As you mentioned, it's going to be huge in China within 10 years. You've got UFC making moves there with the Shanghai Performance Institute, and they have the first UFC Chinese champion in Zhang Weili. You've got One Championship doing their thing there. You've got Legend, who used to be a Hong Kong promotion. Now they're moving to China. They're looking to kind of determine the best in China. That's their whole thing. How you talked a bit about differentiating your product already, but how do you just compete for the signatures? It must be difficult because there's so many players in the game who are all looking for the success in China.
Yeah, I think 3 points to note. One, China's a big place.
Yeah.
Right? To think that there'll be one MMA company that dominates China is to like say there's one soft drink or one e-commerce company, right? Unless it's a monopoly set by the government. In any country around the world, there's never one. There's never one. And China particularly is so big and so interesting with so many great athletes 10 years from now that there'll be, my guess, there would be a handful of big MMA companies. So that's my guess. You know, if you look at any other market, how it evolves, and I'm a venture capitalist, an entrepreneur, and have built dozens of companies, you know, normally you have 3 very big companies in any market. And then you have a couple small ones, but you have 3 very big companies in any market. So that's point 1. Point 2 is what we do is different. And that difference is to the fighters. Remember, what we offer fighters is 2 very different propositions from any other company. And the first is you control your destiny. Remember, in the PFL, once we set the roster of, call it 10 fighters in each weight class, 6 weight classes, so 60 fighters to start the year, we only take 60 elite fighters. And then it's up to you. So think of the analogy to the NBA right now, where the NBA playoffs are going on. What if the commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, just decided that LeBron James was going to make the finals, right? Or not make the finals just because it was good or bad for TV? Well, that's not a sport. So if I'm a fighter today, I want to control my own destiny. How good am I? I want to bet on myself. And that's what the PFL allows you to do. We don't decide a single thing once that season starts. You win, you move ahead. You win 4 times, you win $1 million. It's that simple. And for fighters who appreciate betting on themselves, that's different than the other ones, number 1. And number 2 is, to date, we offer the most money for 99% of the fighters. If you're Conor McGregor, you can make the most money on pay-per-view. If you're Khabib, you can make the most money on pay-per-view. But if you think about it, there's roughly 2,000 professional MMA fighters around the world at the highest level. Well, 5 can make top money on pay-per-view, roughly. 5 can make $5 to $10 million a fight on pay-per-view. So that means there's 1,995 MMA fighters that can make more money in the PFL today. Because each year, not only in addition to your fight money, you can make $1 million at the end of the year. So last year, there were more millionaires in the PFL than there were in the UFC. And nobody's even heard of us yet. Right? We're just getting started. We're in year 3. So to me, if I'm a fighter, to put my athlete mentality hat on for a minute, I want to bet on myself and I want to make more money. Those are 2 things I want to do. Nobody's holding me back. Can I be the champion? I'll make that decision, not you make that decision. And can I make a lot of money doing it? So that's the proposition we offer. And will it be for everybody? No, of course not. Will there be 3 or 4 big companies? Yes. And will PFL, be one of those? We think so. But we're going to take that different proposition to the market.
How do you think the technology, you're going to have to talk me through it because I'm not a tech head, but I know you differentiate yourself from other companies with some of the things like the cagenomics, I think it's called, the smart cage, biometric data. Yeah. What, for a layman like me, what does that mean? And how do you think that would that play well in China to the audience there? Yes.
Perfect question, because we've designed it for a regular person like you. Back to what most fans like. They don't like technology. What they like is my viewing experience better, right? So we've made the technology invisible. Simply what it means to you is two things. When you're watching, you get data and analytics on the screen that make it more interesting and more engaging for you. So you get how hard is that punch in real time. You get what is the real-time heart rate of those fighters. You get kick speed real time. So you're getting analytics and data about that fight that allow you to appreciate that fight and appreciate that fighter even more. And that's on the screen real time. That makes it super interesting if you're a diehard, but if you're a newbie, like let's say you watch a lot of basketball or soccer and you don't know MMA, now you know what's going on a little bit more that you didn't know before. The second thing this does for you is starting in 2021, real-time gambling. This PFL Smart Cage captures all data and analytics real time. And with a gaming partner in 2021, which we'll announce this fall, those all become real-time prop bets on your phone or on your tablet real time. What will be the hardest punch from Ray Cooper III in this round? You can bet on that. Will Kayla Harrison win in under 1 minute, under 2 minutes, or under 3 minutes in this round? You can bet on that. So it will become a more engaging and a more gamified experience. So I think that those two things are going to be extremely interesting for MMA fans in general who haven't checked out the PFL starting in May 2021, because nobody in MMA is doing that. And all that took very complex technology, which doesn't matter to the fans because we've done it. And you had to get it cleared with fighters, with fighting commission, and you had to get it to work. And all that was in place and done in 2019 season, and it's now ready for the gambling prop bets for 2021.
We are the driving force behind these technological advancements. You've had quite an awesome career just looking at some of the other companies, you know, AOL, Time Warner. I think you even at Chicago Cubs or something. How does that experience, your experience, how does that fit in, you know, to what you're bringing to the PFL in terms of the technology?
Yeah, and even the last 10 years as a venture capitalist invested in DraftKings and SportRadar and a co-owner Team Liquid in esports. You know what's taught me? It's taught me always focus on the fan, always focus on the TV viewer, always focus on the consumer of your product. So 4 years ago, I was an outsider to MMA. I'm an entrepreneur and a proven entrepreneur, but I'm an outsider to MMA. So we started the PFL by saying, what would an MMA fan love as a new and different viewing experience? It's almost like there's a children's book, If I Ran the Zoo, what would I do? So if you wanted to watch an MMA fight, what would make it very interesting? That's what we think about every single day. So we don't think of technology, we think of the TV viewer. Because remember, the PFL is a global media content company. We're not focused on the live experience for 10,000 fans. We were built for 1,000 fans and then 10 million people watching. That's our DNA. That's how we're built. A little bit different as an event company. And so we're always saying, in 160 countries, what would be really cool on your phone, on your tablet, on your TV to make this MMA fight very interesting? And that's how we came up with the ref cam. You know, where the little camera on the referee's glasses so you can see the knockout. That's how we came up with the corner interviews. That's how we came up with the Smart Cage. So what we constantly do is say, if you love MMA and you love watching MMA on streaming or broadcast, what would make it better? And so we kind of start, with the fan and work back instead of technology and work out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's something that would play well in China because a lot of things use social media to help people interact with TV shows and programs such as that. Would that be something you'd be interested in, working with some of their social media and tech companies when you bring it to China?
Absolutely. Look, and I think the main message, and for all the people who are listening to your show is we're a very partner-like company. When I was a young executive at America Online, we were the 5th largest online company. There were 4 companies bigger than us. and they were more well capitalized, and they included the biggest companies in the world. We were little number 5. And the only way we became number 1 is with partners, business partners. And the same with PFL. Our goal is to partner with the very best companies and the very best investors. And so certainly when we enter anywhere in Asia, anywhere in China, anywhere in Hong Kong, we're going to do so with the very best partners. And that's partners whether they're investors, that's partners whether they're technology providers, that's partners whether they're big fight managers or promoters. And that's allowed us to scale relatively quickly because, this is our 3rd year. And our audience and our distribution is already the number 2 MMA company globally. We've done that with partners, and we've done that by being a good partner. So to me, that's the key answer to your question of how will we do it? We will do it by partnering with people who are experts at what they do and people who are local with connections and infrastructure that we don't have. And do we give up some value because they own a piece of what we're doing? Sure. But we'll all get bigger and more valuable faster. And that's been my history in business, and that's our approach to the PFL.
Yeah, and you mentioned some amazing companies you'd worked with. What was it about the PFL, the main thing of the project that really attracted you? Why did you think this is the right thing for me to invest my time and money and to get involved with?
Yeah, it's and as I said, for the last 25 years, I've really concentrated in digital and media and gaming and sports, but always from the disruptive side, not a lot from the traditional side. So call it the new innovative side of those industries. And the day that UFC sold for $4.2 billion, I didn't know a lot about MMA. I knew a lot about the big 5 traditional sports. I knew a lot about the changes going on in sport. And I knew a lot about the business of sport, but not a lot about MMA. And 2 things struck me that day. And it's what propelled me to start the PFL. Number 1, this 450 million fan base, which your listeners and you are well aware of. Remember, in the United States, people view MMA as a niche sport. It's maybe the number 6 or 7 sport, in the United States, where it's a top 3 sport in many other countries, right, around the world. So there's 450 million fans. That's the 3rd largest fan base after soccer and basketball. I had no idea. I had no idea. And number 2 is that fan base had only been given really one of the highest quality product, UFC, 30 to 35 events a year. So I approach this more as a student of the market and saying there's 6,000 basketball games a year for that fan base. There's 2,000 soccer matches a year for that fan base. But there's only 30 to 35 of the highest quality MMA fights a year for that fan base. There will have to be other interesting fight products for that fan base. That's why I got into the PFL. So I almost viewed it like soccer. As you know, soccer has 9 leagues, not 1 league, 9. Whereas the Premier League is the largest with $8 billion of revenue. And MLS in the United States is the smallest of the 9 leagues with $1 billion of revenue. But they have $30 billion of revenue, and it's divided among 9 leagues. Well, right now in MMA, as a sport, there's 1. So I said, those fans will want more than 1. And almost everywhere else in the world, I would almost call a feeder or a minor league. It was not operating at the highest of high levels. If fighters got good, they left. The distribution wasn't global. The money wasn't big enough. The TV production wasn't good enough. So I said, what if we could just offer something also at the highest level as an alternative to those fans? And that's really what propelled me to start this PFL. Once again, not competing with the UFC, but I said, how can we be an alternative for fans? Just as like there's alternatives in every other market out there, and just as there are 9 soccer leagues.
Well, just my final question. I saw this on Twitter. I wanted to just check with you guys. It was Kayla Harrison put a tweet out and it piqued my interest. I don't know, what does this mean? Coming soon? ? Has she got some secrets that you guys are going to be telling us soon? I was thinking maybe there's going to be some special one-off PFL shows, maybe, or is she just having fun with everyone on Twitter?
Well, first of all, there's nobody like Kayla. Nobody like Kayla. As you know, we took Kayla pro, and as you even saw, Dana White last month said the only fight left for Amanda Nunes is Kayla Harrison. And Dana White has never called out a fighter from another MMA company that I've ever seen. That's not what Dana White does.
Yeah, well, he shut down the Bellator talk last weekend, I think. A few Bellator fighters have been calling out, but he said, why would I make a super fight with Bellator?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it was Dana White. You can research it. He called it out. Kayla is probably, after Amanda Nunes, the most exciting, most interesting, best female fighter in the world right now. And we're very proud to have discovered Kayla and made her, we think, one of the highest paid fighters in the world. So when Kayla says coming soon, there may be something coming soon.
I still have no idea. What about how are things going with Ali? Because I know he manages her, Ali Abdelaziz. What's the relationship like going forward with Ali at the moment?
Ali has been from the beginning a fantastic business partner, PFL. A lot of his fighters have been our champions. He's worked very closely with us. In order to get some of his best fighters to be under contract with the PFL. And I think he's an entrepreneur who's very straight shooter, with us. And we've enjoyed working with Ali. And I think having been in the sports negotiating business when I was young, as a chief negotiating for the Chicago Cubs, and long ago did Sammy Sosa's first contract. Look, it's hard to always balance between the company and the athlete. And Ali does a fantastic job for his clients, but he's also always been very direct and transparent with us. It's been a good relationship.
All right, awesome. Well, Donn Davis, thanks very much for talking to me today or tonight in Hong Kong. Yeah, I hope you enjoy that beautiful morning over there in America. It looks very nice.
Great.
You're
Thanks
back.
for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been great to chat.
Hey guys, Sasha Platnikoff here, letting you know to tune in to SCMP post-fight for all your weekly martial arts news.